Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the bishops and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well through the scriptures. Peace to the 144,000 and the rest of the hopeful elect. I am the brother Chaya from GMS Indianapolis, the branch of Indiana. The original Gary campus GMS, it will not tarry too. And I'm going to do a response to this video you see on screen. How big tobacco intentionally made snacks addictive. Now, first I'm going to start off with this scripture right here, Ezekiel 4 and 13. And when you read Ezekiel 4, when you read the Bible, right, the Lord will have the prophets do certain things to represent other things, right? So let's start up from this. Ezekiel 4 and 8. And behold, I will lay bands upon thee, and thou shalt not turn thee from one side to another. See, let's start up. Fuck it. I'm going to start at the top. It says, thou also, son of man, take thee a tile and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem, and lay siege against it, and build a fort against it, and cast a mount against it. Set the camp also against it, and set battering rams against it round about. So to put it in perspective, imagine that he was drawing this out. You know how you watch a period piece, right? And maybe they're going to war, and they're in the war room, the king with the generals, and they got the table with the map laid out, and they move a piece here to represent the horsemen, and they move a piece there to represent the pikemen, and basically they laying out the plans. So here Ezekiel was laying out, all right, how Jerusalem is going to be besieged, okay? Moreover, take thou unto thee an iron pan, and set it for a wall of iron between thee and the city, and set thy face against it, and it shall be besieged, and thou shalt lay siege against it. This shall be a sign to the house of Israel. See, let's look up the word sign. Like I said earlier, the Lord had the prophets do certain things to represent other things, all right? It said for a sign, a distinguishing mark, a wath in the Hebrew, a banner, a remembrance, a token, standard, miracle, proof. All right. Sometimes it'll say evidence. Lie thou also upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it. According to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon it, thou shalt bear the iniquity. For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days, 390 days. So shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year. And therefore thou shalt set thy face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and thine arm shall be uncovered, and thou shalt prophesy against it. And behold, I will lay bands upon thee, and thou shalt not turn thee from one side to another till thou hast ended the days of thy siege. Right. So if you're familiar with history, it's reported that Michelangelo, I think it was Michelangelo who painted the Sistine Chapel. You know, the Sistine Chapel, the roof. All right. The ceiling, Salaki, not the roof, but the ceiling is a bunch of paintings. I don't know the proper term, whatever they call them, frescoes or whatever. And it was reported that he lied on his back for, 12 to 15 hours a day doing those paintings. Well, now Ezekiel is in a similar position. He's restrained on one side, like he's laying on his left side, and he's restrained where he can't turn to his right. All right, to represent the besiegement and the iniquity of both kingdoms, the northern and southern kingdom, for whatever the appointed days, 390 days for Israel and 40 for Judah, right? So verse 9 says, take thou also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and fitches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days shalt thou eat thereof. And thy meat which thou shalt eat shall be by weight. 20 shekels a day. From time to time shalt thou eat it. And we coming back into those times. All right. Look, with Trump cutting these food stamps, right, with hyperinflation, with the dollar losing its buying power, which I think they say is like 3%. They're not making pennies anymore, right? Pennies cost more to make than their actual value, right? These stores are not giving you correct change anymore. They're rounding, right? They're rounding up or down to the nearest 5 cent, right? The farmers are they're not getting bailed out. You got shrinkflation. So people are going to be eating they food by weight. All right. And it ain't going to be because you counting macros and you counting your protein or whatever. It's going to be because you saving it. Just like he did off that movie. What was that? With Will Smith. He said, I was saving that bacon. Right? Beef bacon, turkey bacon, chicken bacon. I am legend, right? It says, thou shalt drink also water by measure. The sixth part of an hin, from time to time shalt thou drink, right? And hey, you're going to start back drinking faucet water. You know? You drinking Eternals now. Pretty soon you're gonna get shrunk down to Ice Mountain. Then you're gonna be on the faucet water. It says, I'm equating Ezekiel times to the times we are in now. All right. Like the scripture said, the things that was written aforetime was written for our learning. And part of our learning is understand the prophecies. OK. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight. Dung. Let's look it over in Ezekiel 4:12. Eat the food as you would a loaf of bread, of barley bread, in the NIV on the right side. Bake it in the sight of the people using human excrement for fuel, right? Verse 13, this is the point. And the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. So we have been driven amongst the Gentiles. We don't have no power in our hand, right? We don't control our meat. We don't control our milk, our cheese, for the most part. All right. And really, I ain't even got to say for the most part. You people know the average American gets their food, all right, from the grocery store, especially the average so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, or the government, WIC, or food stamps, whatever. And the things that they do to this food, right? When we watch that video, we're going to get to the video. It shows you the level of defilement. All right. Let's look up defiled. Tama, unclean, impure, ethically and religiously, ritually of places. Then there's a right way to slaughter food. All right. In the scriptures tell us, all right, don't eat of an animal that dieth of itself. Don't eat of nothing that was strangled. It speaks about like a lamb dumb going to the slaughter. The lamb is dumb. Why? Because the lamb isn't protesting the slaughter. Animals are sentient beings. They smart. They intelligent. All right. You got animals producing adrenochrome because they're being slaughtered in a non-ethical way. And certain hormones and chemicals are produced as a result of the unethical manner that they slaughter them. And then you eat that. And now you affected. And now you got the itis and whatever else you may have. And we ain't even started on the way they fed the animals and the way they housed them. That's another conversation within itself. Pollution, all right? Foul, in a religion sense, defiled, infamous, polluted, all right? So our food and our bread is defiled, all right, amongst these heathens that got control over the food. Ezekiel 39 and 26, Slakia, Ecclesiasticus, also known as the book of Sirach or Sirach, 39 and 26. The principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, and they done messed that up. You got to get the whole BPA, right? Which saying years ago, saying BPA is the only chemical that affects hormones and, sexuality is like saying Al Capone was the only mobster, right? It's like, yeah, you got BPA is the big one, but then you got a lot of small ones too. Fire, iron, and salt. Oh no, let's not start on the salt. All right. First of all, the doctor tells you salt is the cause of your high blood pressure when it ain't true. It's the first of all, it's the table salt that you use, right? Then you try to get better and get some sea salt. Well, now the sea salt got plastics in it because of all of the plastic in the ocean. And then you try to hop to some pink Himalayan salt. Well, it could have certain minerals in it depending on the way they extract it. Then you get the Celtic salt. And and then his companies, Bill Gates and them, they end up buying all them up. See? Do you see how he do? Flour of wheat, let's not get started. Honey, forget about it. Milk, forget about it. And the blood of the grape. When the last time you seen the grape with a seed in it? You got to hunt for those. And oil and clothing. Come on, seed oils. Right? Then they with the illusion that it's healthy. Vegetable oil. You hear that, you would think that'd be good for you. It say oil, and then it's from vegetables. Vegetables are healthy for you, right? Wrong. That stuff wear your body out, man. Vegetable oil, safflower oil, grapeseed oil. You think you're running away from canola oil and lard or whatever type of grease. Because they have names that sound like it's healthy and pure or whatever, but you got to do some research on it. It just sounds good. It says all these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. And this dude has weaponized the principal things for living into evil. Now let's watch this video. Pardon me.
Argue that in some cases, processed foods are even more addictive.
Fair use. I am not using this video for monetary gain, just educational purposes only. Fair use, fair use.
Than drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. Well, it's not exactly a coincidence. Packaged snacks have always been hard to put down.
Oreos were invented as far back as 1912, and snacks like Snickers and Fritos date back to the 1930s. But obesity in the US didn't start causing alarm until the late 70s, and rates really started to spike between 1980 and 2008. So what happened here?
Big tobacco had something to do with it. It all started around 1953 when more and more studies came out pointing to the negative health effects of smoking. Big tobacco was, for obvious reasons, stressed about how this could impact their business. So they started looking to diversify their portfolios. And in 1963, R.J. Reynolds, the makers of Camel, Newport, and Pall Mall cigarettes, purchased Hawaiian Punch. It just so happens that it purchased the fruit juice right before the first Surgeon General's report came out in 1964. And this was the report that marked one of the first major shifts in Americans' public opinion of smoking.
And I remember, let me just jump in. I remember billboards advertising Jake smoking Newports and smoking cool cigarettes. And they would show these young, like mid to early 20s, a Jake man, so-called black man, and a so-called black woman with these bright, big Kool-Aid smiles with perfect white teeth. Then you go into the store and you see they got cigar candy where it's gum, right? Then they got the cigarettes where it's candy and or gum. And I remember like you could pull one, like you could buy like a mock carton. I remember I bought one as a kid. You could buy like a little carton of cigarettes and it'd be like candy or gum or something. And you pull one out and it was a way where you can act like you was smoking it and puffing on it. And like the dust would come from it to mimic smoking. See that how they advertising it to young children already. See, the scripture speaks about what's that, Psalm 64 and was it a protest from the parents? Right? No. See, this devil tells you what to care about. But I remember if you used your Legos to build a gun growing up, then your mother and your grandmother, mainly your grandmother, would tell you, oh, don't do that, don't do that. But ain't nobody protesting you coming home with candy mimicking cigarettes and cigars. All right. What is that? Psalm 64:6. They search out iniquities. They accomplish in a diligent search both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Right? See, they always trying to understand the psychology behind something. And so you can predict, human behavior. If you can predict it, you can control it. That's what he be on.
Previously, Hawaiian Punch had been marketed as a cocktail mixer for adults, but R.J. Reynolds pivoted to market the sugary beverage to kids. They utilized the drink's colorful mascot, Punchy, to appeal to young children, a strategy they would later use with Joe the Camel to sell cigarettes, before being banned from doing so. And tobacco executives were well aware of the importance of building brand loyalty at an early age. When they did this by marketing flavored cigarettes to minors, it was a way of constantly generating new replacement smokers, or customers. But perhaps even more disturbing was the way R.J. Reynolds tampered with Hawaiian Punch's formula. See, the company had decades of experience of creating flavoring additives for cigarettes and chewing tobacco, so it applied these lessons to make Hawaiian Punch's flavors extra enticing. In fact, under R.J. Reynolds' leadership, Hawaiian Punch went from offering a mere 2 flavors to a whopping 16. The company's manager of biochemical research at the time wrote an internal memo stating that R.J. Reynolds was in the flavor business, and that the flavors they developed for cigarettes would be useful in food, beverage, and other products, leading to large financial returns. A 1985 company report wrote that the goal in the development of these products was to, quote, leave people wanting more. And this was just the beginning. R.J. Reynolds began growing its food and drink portfolio with the purchase of Del Monte in 1979 and the purchase of Hubline, a liquor company, in 1983. By the mid-'80s, it was clear that the anti-smoking campaigns were working. The number of regular smokers in the U.S. fell from 42.4% in 1965 to a little over 30% by 1985. So in 1985, R.J. Reynolds buys Nabisco brands for $4.9 billion. Then, in 1988, Philip Morris, the maker of Marlboro and Parliament cigarettes, buys Kraft for $13.1 billion. And this is where packaged food really seems to go off the rails. A recent study by the University of Kansas compared the foods produced by Big Tobacco to those that were not between 1988 and 2001, a period of time where Big Tobacco essentially led the food industry. More specifically, they looked at the nutritional makeup of the 105 best-selling food products owned by Big Tobacco and compared them with 587 other food products sold at the same time. The analysis revealed that tobacco company foods were 29% more likely to be fat and sodium hyperpalatable and 80% more likely to be carbohydrate and sodium hyperpalatable. The researchers say that these findings suggest that Big Tobacco chemically engineered these foods to elicit cravings and light up the reward centers of our brains, which is something that happens when we consume other addictive substances, like recreational drugs. And what does
Yeah, that's how you got comfort foods. Right? You got people get depressed and then they'll eat certain snacks and certain things and they'll be satisfied. But then there's other things that can help with the depression. Like getting some sunlight, which most people don't get enough of, especially working in factories. And then they got third shift jobs. That's wicked. Right? Or being in nature or just having a balanced hormones, you know, because when you constantly fed dopamine, right, and then when you don't get it, you searching it out, so you never satisfied. It reminds me of they came back out with a what was that? Black Mirrors. They came out with another season of Black Mirrors, and long story short, they had an episode where you could just like pay for like basically bliss. It had an app where it said it had a Serenity app. So if you was feeling low, you could just cut the Serenity up on your app, and you would feel better. But it kept upgrading. You had to keep upgrading with it. Anyway, you know, you watch the show, you know, you see an example of the effects of constantly being fed dopamine and then crashing and, you know, anyway.
Palatable mean, you ask? The University of Kansas researchers define a hyperpalatable food as one that contains a specific mix of ingredients to enhance its palatability beyond what any one key ingredient could do naturally. Often these hyperpalatable foods contain an enticing mixture of fat, sugar, carbohydrates, and sodium. A great example of one of these hyperpalatable foods is this product. Lunchables came out in 1988 after Philip Morris acquired Kraft. And if you've ever had one of these, you can attest it's quite a potent combination of salt and fat. I personally was pretty addicted.
And see, and then what happens? And then you're taking these chemicals within you, right? At a young age, in an early age, and it's inducing certain behaviors within you, right? And then here he comes with the ADHD medication or whatever other medication. You see? This is how the devil works.
To these when I was little.
And she ate one.
Yeah,
So
tastes
she
pretty
ain't
much the
shit.
same. As if chemically tweaking our food wasn't enough, in 2015, the Center for
Yeah, because you got people that be understanding health and knowing about health, and they just, like the scripture says in Ezekiel, says they hear thy words, but they do them not. Like you'll be talking to somebody about pork, and they'll know everything that you would say. They'll be like, yeah, I know about the certain parasite that's only found in, you know, pork, pigs, and, you know, bears and certain other animals, and you get to telling them, you know, they already know.
Public Integrity found that several of the major food companies owned by Big Tobacco had ties with food scientists that helped them bypass certain safety testing standards. And they did this by having these food scientists deem some of the ingredients as generally recognized as safe. And many of these same food scientists had done similar work for Big Tobacco. So it would appear.
See, you gotta see, just use your common sense, man. You know, you got shit that don't rot, don't never spoil. All right, you have a pack of you had some cheese in the you had some cheese in the refrigerator for months. So, or pardon me, cheese product or slices. See, they get you with the language they use too. All right. Or you go buy some produce and you don't see no gnats flying around. But, you know, when you go through most of the heathen markets and the grocers, you see gnats around, you see little fruit flies around. All right? Because that's a sign you got something closer to real food. That means it's things that can make it spoil. It's things that can, you know, it ain't got that layer of protection away from the elements, which is chemicals.
That the companies that for years marketed and sold one of the most addictive products that we know today went ahead and bought companies that make food, something we have to consume to survive, and found a way to make it habit forming. To be clear, this wasn't all Big Tobacco. Other food companies were clearly developing hyperpalatable foods as well. But the research implies that Big Tobacco was certainly one of the biggest players during this period. In 1999, R.J. Reynolds officially split its tobacco and food businesses. Chairman and chief executive at the time, Stephen F. Goldstone.
Oh, and that's a devil. Oh, yeah, that's a devil right there. Let me see something he said. Hold on. Hold on. Stephen Goldstone. Let me show y'all something real quick. This guy's a devil. You know what it is? You know, these people, they be protected from prosecution. Oh, and look at that. Look at that last name. What race is this guy? Right? What race is that guy? Because he had said something. You know, after seeing this video, you know how I looked this guy up. And I couldn't find a lot about him. But I did find a quote. You know, the devil always telling himself. Let me see his I clicked on this before. Stephen S. Goldstone, the chairman, and look, I want you to pay for something. I might have clicked on it. Let me see. He said something about not being able to be beaten, like as far as like in court cases and stuff. Okay, this is narrated by Walter Cronkite. 3-part miniseries makes it North America premiere October 21st, 1999. It says, it has been a shameful track record. I think it's been one of deception, cover-up, misleading, intentionally misleading the public, and all in the name of profit. Yeah, of course. It says, there's no question what the objective of the other side of this debate is trying to do. Their objective is to put us out of business. This the tobacco company. These are adults. They made a choice and they want to smoke. Increasingly, actually, you see people, they just want to smoke. No, that's not true. You added addictive chemicals to it. That's the devil. All right. That's the devil. All right. See, this is let me get a couple scriptures, man. John 10:10. The thief cometh not before to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. That's why we need Yahweh Shai, man. This nigga done turned life into death. The principal things you need for life, as we read in the scriptures earlier, all that shit kills you now. All right? Like it says in Sirach, the 12th chapter, never trust thy enemy. Right? Sirach 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness, though he humble himself. See, that's how he gets you. He smile in your face. He lied to you. All right? He gaslights you. It says, and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Now you sitting there shocked and that he did you wrong. Now you sitting there appalled and shit. But this the devil. Like the old what you call it? You know, the stories that they tell you that they pass down. The turtle helped the scorpion across the river. Then the scorpion stung the turtle midway. He like, bro, why you sting me? I'm helping you across the river. I'm doing you a favor. Now we both about to die. You can't swim and you poison me. And the scorpion replies, shit, I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. That's what Esau Edom do. He killed himself in the process. He don't give a damn. That's just who he is. You tell by the quote. That's a damn lie. It says, I wonder if they got one from him though. It said, if there's any answer to be found, the tobacco industry wants to find it. It wants to close the gaps in information on the smoking and health controversy. You believe that? Said tobacco industry reports on their health research are magnificent works of fiction. When we put money in for research, we put the research in straitjackets so that the people were limited how far they looked. And if they came beyond a certain point, which will reflect badly on the tobacco industry, it came to an end. See, this is a former exec. Here you go. They perverted science. They perverted medicine. They covered up any evidence which worked against them. It's a lot on, it's a lot. Maybe I can revisit that. But I want to hear what he had to say. I was looking at it a while, last week or so. And his response, man. Let me see. I put it like this. What did Stephen Goldstone say about tobacco smokers? Yeah. Anyway. I can't find it. Let's go back to the video.
Said that this was to allow investors to invest in either a tobacco company or a food company. But according to the New York Times, he also acknowledged the tobacco taint that had hurt the stock performances of the company. In 2001, Philip Morris officially announced it was changing its name to the Altria Group in an effort to get away from the bad reputation that being the world's most famous cigarette maker had caused. And in 2007, Kraft split from Altria Group altogether. But the impact they had on American food lives on. Today,
Exactly.
the chemically addictive, salty, fatty, and sweet foods that Big Tobacco helped to create make up 68% of the American food supply. While only 15% of Americans between ages 24 and 70 were considered obese in 1980,
That's a big number. It said it makes up 68% of the American food supply. So that makes up the majority of your options. How much more in the so-called black communities? Look at the grocery options that so-called black people have versus when you go to the so-called white neighborhoods. Indianapolis is a perfect example. Out here in all the different neighborhoods and whatever they call them, townships. You want to know where you at? Go to a Kroger and see what they got available and see what they don't got available. If you could buy harmless harvest coconut water, you might be a little okay. If you could buy some ground lamb, you could tell by the meats you got available to you. 9 times out of 10, if you got lamb available to you, if you got bison steaks and ground bison available to you, venison available to you, some sockeye salmon, then you okay. But if you ain't got nothing but boneless meat, everything boneless, everything, microwavable, freezable, pork and chicken. Yeah, you in the hood. Yeah, you got nothing but grape drinking, Hawaiian punch and Sunny D. Yeah, you in the hood.
2000, that number was 30%. And by 2020, that number had reached 40%. And despite the growing evidence that many of these ingredients that make food addictive have been banned in several countries, including China, India, and much of Europe, the US still
That's a damn shame. Now, you know how horrible the Chinese food is in China and how they eat in their diet. China not even taking American food, and they making plastic rice, fake eggs, fake lettuce, fake meat, and they not even taking American food. Now this before this video was made before China and America's current trade agreements.
Allows for them to be used.
And hell, America's allies, those countries in the EU, a lot of these foods are banned out there. In fact, this one guy had a store out there in England or something, and he was selling American food products. He got fined. Okay, he got fined for that. They don't want they people that dumb and thick. All right. They want that for you people over here in America. They want, and primarily for you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. That's what they want that for.
So the next time you find yourself unable to stop from polishing off a whole bag of chips, or you see a toddler have a meltdown in a grocery store over cookies, stop and think to yourself, is this just poor impulse control or a literal addiction?
And then when you start eating better, eating whole foods, you'll find that you only need to eat once or twice a day. Because now you're actually getting real nutrients. You wake up, you make some tea or whatever, put your little herbs in there, your little tinctures in there, drink that. All right. Eat little eggs or something, or wait, and then eat whatever, man. But you'll find that you don't need all that stuff. What they say, they produce the chemicals that it makes you crave it. So you got people they're not even eating because they're hungry. They're eating, you know, people sitting there, I got a taste for something sweet. That's all I heard growing up. From like maybe my grandmother or my mother or something. Well, what the hell that's supposed to mean? Are you hungry or not? You sitting there, but you got a taste for something sweet. So now you just eating something sweet, and sugar craves salt. So now, and let's not talk about the, the parasites. And the average person don't fast either. So I'll say all that to say this. Looking at this video, all right, and understanding how food affects people, the way they weaponized it with chemicals, where that's going to leave you people with this famine that's prophesied to come. See, the Bible prophesied famine was coming, but now we living in it. All right? With that hyperinflation and shrinkflation, and now they cutting off food stamps. 40 million Americans depend on food stamps. Right? You got certain places where whole counties, 90+% of the county depends on it. Government aid. SNAP. So they went from controlling what you can buy with it. You only could buy whole foods. You can't be buying candy and snacks and all that. Until now, it's not there. So people about to start looting, and these the same people, to quote the Apostle Paul, these the same people. You're jabbed up, you shot up, you got chemicals in you, and now you're not going to be able to get your chemical fix. All right. With everything going on, the ice targeting Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. All right. Hurricane over there in Jamaica. And this is hurricane season too. All right. The fall. If I'm not mistaken, I remember that from, freshman year science class. This hurricane season. All right. So let me grab a scripture. Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And that's been happening, more and more frequently. All right. As the end gets closer and closer. And that's happened a lot this year. There was a planetary alignment at the beginning of the year. There was a solstice. All right. A blood moon, and it was a blood moon and a lunar eclipse at the same time, which that was last month. This month it was something October. It was something on October 7th, and next month there's supposed to be something on November 5th, something in the moon, and it's supposed to be something again on December 5th. See? And upon the earth, distress of nations. Let's look up distress. Tsunake. They holding together, and the contracting part of a way, metaphorically, straits. All right? Straits. Which straight mean position of difficulty. Restraint, frequently, anxiety. Right. People are anxious, man. All right? Because you know the way they do those SNAP benefits. November the 1st, okay, everybody don't get their stamps on the 1st. You get them according to your last name. So you got some people that's getting them now, if they got them, right? Maybe if the administration haven't started early, depending on their last name, some people got a couple days ago, and they don't know, they're unsure if the shutdown is going to end, right? So they're anxious. They got some anxiety too. So that's going to control how they spend their money. Remember we read earlier, the Lord told Ezekiel, you shall eat meat by weight and water by weight. Yeah, you're going to be basically going to be measuring it out. And this ain't the time. It ain't going to be a buffet. Ooh, get me some more. Ooh, give me some more. You're going to be freezing shit. You're going to eat, put it in the freezer. You ain't going to be throwing them leftovers away now. All right. It says, let's look up distress too. Oh, was that distress? Oh, pardon me. Perplexity. Yeah. Aporia, the state of one who is in perplexity, a state of quandary. Let me see. To be without resources, to be in straits, to be left wanting, to be embarrassed, right? And ultimately, you're going to be embarrassed because you did not choose the fear of the Lord. All right. What is that scripture? See, did the Lord say, I'm going to laugh at your calamity? That's embarrassment. Proverbs 1:27 or 26. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish cometh upon you. There go the word distress again. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me, for that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Yeah, the things that we saying, all right, they despise it. They making videos and TikToks against it, right? But just like it's written in Jeremiah, he said they ain't understand. I'm talking to them, so for they good, so your wrath won't be upon them. And in the process, Jeremiah caused so much hell. He said, all right, fuck it. Then we'll let their husbands die. Let them cry over their dead children. We'll kill them. Because at one point you get tired. All right. So basically, the next verse. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. So you brought this upon yourself. When you didn't listen to the prophets, we told you Esau Edom was the devil. We told you to turn to the Lord that you may be saved from the evil to come. Because he said his servants shall eat and his servants shall drink. So the warning was sent out, but you despised the warning. And now look, and we talk about diet too. You know, y'all got these bad diets that you refuse to let go. All right. But anyway, I'll finish this. It says, for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. So even the ones, even though the people that might be a little bit more well off to do, where the squeeze, it'll affect you a little, but not as much as the average person. That can be a snare unto you too. All right, because adversity builds character. So if you ain't dealing with no adversity, you ain't been, when your integrity gets tested, you fall. It says, but whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So that's what the hopeful elect are hoping in. And you people don't even, we warning you and we letting you know, right? But only the Lord's sheep gonna hear. But anyway, with Lord's willing, that was the edifying lesson to the hopeful elect. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak